mastery for startups, scale-ups, and early-stage businesses with your host, Jerry Gadori. On today's show, we're going to talk about building high-performance teams. We'll take a look at how we gain the attention of top talent to build that team. We'll talk about how we convince them to join us, and we'll discuss how we keep them. First things first, what is a high-performance team? To my mind, regardless of their skill set, they could be software developers, recruiters, salespeople, heck, they might be a management consulting project team. Whatever they are, what they do isn't what makes them high performance. It's how they do it. A high performance team is able to produce at a level significantly higher than that of their peer groups or their peer teams. Often, they accomplish this by not only being a higher caliber of talent, but by having a synergistic relationship with their teammates that allows for truly exceptional performance. Who wouldn't want a team like that? Well, from a performance perspective, that's an easy and obvious answer. But from an attraction, recruitment, and retention perspective, it's a bit thornier. But wait, I'm getting ahead of myself. For our purposes, we've defined a highly performant team as one that produces at a measurably significant amount above their peer teams. Let's break this down the same way I do any team building, which is to use the attract, recruit, and retain model. The attraction phase of the model is first, and it's all about creating an attractive employer brand and seeding it in the places where these candidates are likely to be. For our conversation today, let's keep it simple and say that we're building a team of software developers centered around a senior developer who we already have in our company, already a part of our teams. Where do we start in designing that brand? This could, and likely at some point will, be an entire episode on its own. But for our overview purposes, our employer brand needs to reflect our company's true culture, our workplace environment, and our DEI strategy to ensure that any candidates that see it have a basic understanding of what working with us will look like. They have to be able to see themselves in that place. The culture fit candidates will be attracted to the imagery we create. They will see themselves in that environment and will be attractive to them. Conversely, folks who aren't a cultural match, who wouldn't fit well in our environment, would find it unattractive and be less inclined to inquire further. That aspect is a key part of any good marketing. It is attractive to its target audience and unattractive to others. Once that part's done, the next step is to seed that marketing across all the places where our ideal candidates are likely to be. How do we find that out? Very simply, we ask our soon-to-be team lead and any other people in our company, or, as we may not have that skill set yet, or in our professional network. What associations do they belong to? What conferences do they go to? What user groups do they belong to? What podcasts and newsletters do they value? Once we've compiled a decent list of where that type of person tends to aggregate, we've got our starting point. Now, quick pro tip here. Be mindful of how much time and resources you can invest in building this presence. If you're a busy founder, like all of us, or an early stage leader light on budget, then prioritize this list accordingly and pick your targets based on that prioritized list. It's much better to pick a few places and own them than to spread yourself too thin and never really establish a presence in any of them. One more quick pro tip on this. LinkedIn is the largest business network in the world and should be one of the places you pick regardless of other selections. It's too easy and too efficient a platform to skip. Just find the appropriate LinkedIn user groups where that type of person is and start creating your presence. Now, what does that mean, creating a presence? I'll stick with LinkedIn for our example, as again, we could spend a whole episode on this alone. But creating a presence is all about adding value in the form of useful information and content. created or curated content of interest and engagement with the members of that particular group. All outreach and posts should be consistent with the employer brand you are building. You'll find that really by adding that type of value over time, you're going to earn the right to talk about the roles you're trying to fill. But that's something that happens over time. People will come to see you as a valuable member of their group, and they're more likely to view your posting favorably and more likely to engage with you and with the content that you're creating. A good model to embrace once you've been in a group for a while and adding value for a while is to give, then ask. For example, share a relevant article about, again, sticking with our software development team example, a very recent change in a popular software development technology. Then maybe share a YouTube video about how a new version of that technology changes something that would be important to that audience. Then share some pictures of you at a relevant conference and ask if anyone else went to that conference. Yes, a personal share. People connect with people. In this setting, that's considered a give. Now that you've given 3 things, now it's time to mention that your company's looking to add a few software devs to their team with X skills and Y experience. And does anyone in the group know anyone? That's your ask. Give, ask. Now, again, this is an episode on its own, but this is an overview of the attraction phase of building a highly performant team. Now that we're starting to garner some attention, you might be asking yourself, why not just post the job on a job board? Well, I'm not telling you not to, but I will say you'll likely get 900 plus replies in the first 24 hours. They'll take you several hours or days to wade through, only to find that 2 to 4% of the responses were even relevant to what you're trying to do. Never mind someone who would be a good add to the team. Top talent needs to be found. A relationship needs to be developed, and then they need to be attracted to your role. Once you're starting to get that engagement through whatever path you take, you've moved from the attraction phase into the recruitment phase. And this is all about getting the talent you need to join your team. If the attraction phase could have been an episode, the recruitment phase could have been 10. So I'm going to hit this at a high level and move on to the retention phase. First, don't post job postings that look like epic fantasy novels. By that, I mean 10,000 pages long. No one is going to read a 5-page job description at this stage. Keep your outreach short, focused on the candidate's wants, and share out more information as they express interest in subsequent contacts and engagement. Your goal is to get them live with you to discuss what you have and what they're looking for. When you do get them live, you need to focus on them, what they're trying to achieve in their next role, what they're looking to where they're looking to take their career. Why? Because this is where retention starts. Regardless of the skill set match, if your role doesn't represent a logical next step and your company and team mission doesn't align with their personal values and goals, this person is going to bounce out of your organization quickly, and it is really hard to build a high-performance team if you're churning through people. Once it's clear that this is a good cultural and career fit, now you work them through your qualification process. Another pro tip, your interview process should be built around how to work through all necessary qualifications as quickly as possible. The longer it takes from first contact to yes, no, the more likely you are to lose your top talent. This is by far the biggest and most common mistake I see companies make, and early stage companies truly have no excuse. We don't have the bureaucracy of an enterprise level firm. Heck, our whole company is probably smaller than their HR department. The easiest way to accomplish this is to empower these decisions to be made at the lowest level in the organization that they can, be, so long as they can be competently made. In other words, do this at the lowest level that's available for your team. Now, if you have a 15-person startup, this is a no-brainer. But this philosophy will serve you well if you can work it into your culture as it will not only decrease the people you lose in the interview phase, but it will empower upcoming leaders to make decisions and fast track their own growth. Another pro tip, feedback. Giving prompt and quality feedback keeps candidates engaged and helps to keep your role high on their opportunity stack. Finally, once you've qualified the right candidate and they've accepted your offer, we move from the recruitment phase to the retention phase. And it all starts after the accepted offer, of course, with ensuring that whoever was responsible for this hiring project shares all that they learned while qualifying the candidate with whoever that candidate will report to. In our example, it'll be this new team lead that we've just created from our senior software developer. What info are we ensuring that they get? Well, what are they looking to accomplish in their next role? What do they like about the role? What didn't they like about the role? What are their career aspirations overall? Based on what we know so far, what are their strengths and weaknesses? All of this needs to be compiled and used as the basis for our new team members' orientation, management plan, and career development plan. A smooth transition here and reinforcement of the topics covered during the interview phase sends the message that the company took the candidate's desires seriously and that they weren't just selling them a job. It would likely surprise you just how refreshing your new teammate will find this and how far it will go on getting them to step off on the right foot. Now we're in retention. We did attraction, we moved to recruitment, and here we are at retention. This is where we take that team and build them into a high-performing team. First is the orientation I just mentioned. It should take about a month to complete. Depending on the person's seniority, it could take even longer. Now, I'm not suggesting that they're sitting in a desk in the corner, filling out paperwork and reading manuals from your HR checklist for a month. That would not help with the retention. I can promise you that. No, I'm saying that they should receive initial training, be introduced to their new teammates, their immediate leadership, and then the leadership all the way up their chain of command. Again, in a 10 or 15 person startup, this is not an arduous task. But on our path from startup to scale up to world beater, we want to sow the seeds now and let them develop with us. These things become the processes that make us that world beater. As a leader, I work closely with my new hire until it's clear that they understand their role, and then I separate slowly, allowing their ability to perform their role to be my guide as to the level of autonomy they should have. Now, exactly no one likes a micromanager. I'm not suggesting that. What I'm saying is that you need to let them earn autonomy so they feel supported while they come up to speed, and as they demonstrate through their performance, then you distance yourself, circling back in periodically to ensure that they're still on track until those new skills they just learned and those new processes become habit for them. No one likes a micromanager, but his shy twin, the absentee manager, does at least as much damage, but somehow doesn't get talked about. Your path to a truly high-performing team is the path of active management. Be involved. Employee reviews are a part of that philosophy. As I'd said, I'm working closely with the new hire. As they earn autonomy, I distance myself and our meetings become less frequent. Likely that first month, again, this is very general and dependent on their seniority and the complexity of their role and their place in our team. But likely after the first month, I'll meet with them as needed, but no less than weekly for the second month, bi-weekly for the third, and then monthly for the second quarter. Then end of third quarter, and then an annual review that is a summation of the notes from all the meetings I held that year. Assuming no performance issues, I move on to quarterly meetings from the second year on, and that ends in an annual meeting that comprises the content of the 4 quarterly meetings that I held. Annual meetings alone are a waste of everyone's time, a disservice to your team, and useless to you, as the data set is too big, the time covered is too great, and the impact is too small. I highly discourage that model. One last concept to introduce here that is critical for solid retention, and that's what I call the EFG model. People stay with a company for as long as they feel heard and valued, engaged. They like what they do and or what the company does, fulfilled. And they're growing their skills and or responsibilities in their current role and ideally have a continued path to growth inside of the company. Growth, EFG, engage, fulfill, grow. Once any of those three things is no longer there, their days are numbered. And that's kind of a kick in the pants. And it should be. People stay with a company for as long as they feel heard and valued, engaged. They like what they do and or what the company does, fulfilled, and they're growing with their skills and or their responsibilities in their current role and ideally have a continued path inside the company. And that's growth, EFG. Once any of those three things is no longer true, their days are numbered. And here's the real kick in the pants. They should be. If they aren't feeling engaged, they don't like how their job or company make them feel, or can't grow anymore, why should they stay? And really, if you think about this, what kind of team member would they become if they did? In my experience, the ones who linger after some aspect of the EFG model has been lost, they become a problem. If they're high value, likely it will be a short-lived problem as top talent has options regardless of economic macro conditions and employment market conditions. But short-lived or not, they are a problem. This final piece, the EFG model, as basic a concept as it is, may well be the secret sauce of truly high-performing teams. They're engaged, they love what they do, they're proud of the company, and they're growing. You provide that, you're on the right track. Now, we've talked about the attraction, recruitment, and retention phases of building a high-performance team from an overview perspective. If any of you have read my book, Destination Employer, you'll notice that it has the exact same process. Why is that? It's not difficult. The answer is really pretty clear. It's because building and maximizing high-performance teams is how you become a destination employer. It's what drives your success. It's how the giants became giants. Anyway, that's all I've got for you today. If you liked what you heard, please spread the word and keep listening as we cover other topics. Anyway, that's all I've got for you today. If you liked what you heard, spread the word and keep listening as we cover other topics and aspects of growing your startup into a scale up and your scale up into a unicorn. Also, please like, review, or comment and subscribe so you don't miss any more episodes. Finally, if you have ideas that you'd like to hear about, make sure to send them to me. If you aren't following me on LinkedIn, please do. I'll make sure that my LinkedIn profile is in the show notes, as that's my primary platform and I'm super easy to reach there. That's all for now from your friends at Business Mastery for startups, scale-ups, and early stage businesses. I'd like to thank you for taking the time to listen to us today. Have a wonderful week and we'll talk to you next time. Goodbye, folks.